sheet would completely
That's such an engineer, forwarded on. Sometimes I'm just being told, no, that's taken care of. Well, verbal, yeah, we'll just take that out, not have anything in writing. Oh, cause like, I got all the solstice spots canceled through audio art. But I've never seen anything in writing that says they're gonna be canceled. Whereas, if you read on the Cat 3, they had a process, because they have to go to engineers,
It's
because.
been over a year. And I was doing. Well, keep patting myself in the back and doing something. When I went in for my 6 weeks, they said you're in the top 95%.
Yeah, the hour of 8:30 having arrived, I'll call this meeting.
Order. We have a 14-item agenda. Open meeting law requirements have been met through proper certification. I'll entertain a motion to adopt that 14-item agenda.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Need a motion to adopt minutes from the previous meeting.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Members of the public will have a 15-minute block of time to comment on today's agenda items. May be present in person or call in to make such comments. The number to call, 715-538-1894. And we'll go with that. Next on the agenda, Samuel's Group. Kurt.
Morning, everyone. Not a lot to report to you today other than things are moving along as planned. Still on schedule for substantial completion by the end of October. We're still having the department meetings with all those that will be occupying the addition monthly to work out the details of the move, to work out the details of the coordination of outside vendors and all those sorts of things. So that's moving along productively. We do have some contractors that we need to needle along to get a few more guys here and there, but it's moving along well. Things that are happening in there right now, obviously walls are getting painted, casework will be going in next week, ceilings are being dropped, flooring's going in, so there's some good finishes that are coming along, and you can see the exterior starting to get wrapped up with the stone and the cladding and the glass, so you'll start to see that parking lot before October start to get cleaned up and get all of that exterior work done. So as far as change orders, there's just a couple small ones Kurt's working on right now, nothing to present to you here today, but nothing that's large, it's hanging out there. All in all, things are moving along as planned. So the renovation portion for this edition, we did meet with health, we met with human services, we met with land. There was 4, wasn't there? Can't remember what the other one was. Oh, county clerk. We met last week virtually, or the week before virtually, went over the floor plans. There were some minor adjustments, like we took a couple toilet rooms and made them into storage rooms because they didn't need the toilet rooms in the space. So we're just going to take the fixtures out and use them as storage rooms. We flipped one toilet into another department there for a storage room, so we're actually reducing some of that scope that's in there, all under the premise of trying to minimize as much scope as possible. We're still on target to have those bid documents ready to hit the street in September, so that we'll have bids for you in October for this renovation phase, with a phasing plan like we talked about in regards to how it would happen, who's getting moved where, and then you can a la carte decide what phases you want to approve as you move forward. So all indications that we talked with the departments about moving in is that after shakedown of the jail, more than likely occupancy of the building will take place after the first of the year, but we still haven't nailed down a specific date yet. But that's kind of what we're shooting for in regards to occupancy. So, yeah.
Is that the entire new facility?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Some of the offices won't be ready for occupation prior to that?
Well, from a code perspective, and if we get compliance, they could. It's a matter of how do we move and when do we move. So those are the details we're working out, just to make sure that it's operationally efficient. And I guess the last thing, we had talked last month at this committee about having a tour of the campus or tour of the addition for this month's county board meeting. That's been moved to August. So I plan to be here for that August meeting. And I guess the order was we were going to make the tour before the county board meeting. Is that accurate? And then we'll come back with any questions that people may have. So I won't plan to be here for this July meeting, but we'll be planning for the August. So more will be done then. It'll look better. So all in all, my update is things are as moving along as they should be.
Any questions for Kurt?
I'm just happy to see no change orders. That's kind of a nice thing. That's a good thing.
I guess the only thing that I had is I know Jeremy has an agenda item for solar charging stations. It says new parking lot. Is that the one for the building, or is that on the one? What's that? So is it on the part of our project or the one on the corner are you thinking about?
No, it's gonna be included, it would be included in this parking lot, it's up to them though.
Okay. Well, I'll stick around for that then, if you don't mind.
Over by where the transformer's located, by the main electrical room. is
Okay.
where they want it to go.
I'll just stick around for that.
IT Department, Mr. Robertson. Heavy on the mister.
Not sure how to take that. Did we talk about the recycling effort at the last meeting? I can't remember.
I didn't see it in the minutes. Yeah,
That's
you-
right, I wasn't here.
Yeah,
All right,
we
so,
did.
so apparently you didn't talk about it. We had 4.5 tons of computer equipment, monitors and the like, that was taken by Dynamic Recycling. And we got paid for that removal to the tune of $686. So that was a pleasant surprise on my budget. So I think we're gonna have people just bring stuff in from their house. Yeah, they have state contracted Dynamic, and it includes, they destroy the hard drives for you, and the state pays us for that. So that's a nice feature. Thank your legislator for that. I'm currently working on negotiating the print services contract with E.O. Johnson. I've got an initial proposal that has considerable savings, but would lead to possible rebellions in certain areas of the building. So we're working on fine-tuning that, and then there'll be further steps to get that number down, because I'm absolutely depending on shrinking that number enough to cover all the increases that are coming in other areas. So we'll further bulletins as events warrant. We had the first meeting of the ad hoc fax replacement team. We selected some stakeholders from around the building. Had a meeting last week, discussed 3 different options for replacing the fax solutions that we have. Those users in the state, with state computers, are the potential fly in the ointment, in that they're not allowed to do things on their PCs that are run on the state, including things like going out to a website and doing faxes. So they're going to research it from their end to find out if they can accommodate the pro solution. We're going to look at a demonstration of the solution I recommended to the team somewhere in the next week or two. And then hopefully by August, we'll have one picked out, and I'll present to you what we recommend. It would take less than 20 days to get migrated over to this solution once we decide. We port the numbers and off we go. That's going to make it a lot easier in the new Justice Center, because we don't have to run analog for fax machines and whatnot. Currently, we're working on a disaster recovery update. I had a recent security session where we went through and had an evaluation done by a security outfit, and one of the things that we could absolutely do right away was attend to our year-and-a-half-old disaster recovery plan. We haven't updated it. Should be doing that every 6 months. It works nicely because the sheriff needs a grant to go through for dispatch, and one of the things they have to do is have a coordination, a continuity of operation plan. And so that works nicely with what we've created so far on the disaster recovery. I got a survey going out to department heads about their data, so we'll be tightening that up and producing that. On the building project, we've met with, well, it's Kurt, Tad, and Eric are the 3 project managers, so I've met with them regularly. We're eliminating some cabling over there, so that should be a savings. We eliminated some AV tech equipment, so that should also be a savings. That so far is going well. We're currently working towards trying to figure out the timing for a lot of things. It looks like TCC is scheduled to go into the new handhole on the north side, and they'll be providing connectivity into the building. I've reached out to TCC to make sure that, because there's multiple agencies inside the building that contract with TCC, and I don't want everybody going off and doing their own thing. We want to make sure it's all coordinated and everybody's going up the same pile. Other vendors that potentially could be going into that handhole, I'm not getting a push to get those in right away. I'm assuming that a handhole, they don't have to tear up sod or landscaping once the handhole's in place. So it's not urgent that we get them in right away, and as long as the 2 buildings are connected, which is the plan, to have that done in September, we don't need to have CenturyTel, Lumen / Brightspeed into that handhole. In fact, Brightspeed's refusing to move their 911 trunks. So we have to have connectivity between the 2 buildings, and we'll be determining that.
What are you calling it? Handhole?
A handhole.
Hole?
Yeah, that's where the electronic equipment goes in the ground. You see those little green boxes. Yeah.
Big junction box.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a pedestal.
Manhole for IT equipment. So there's going to be a lot of coordination between the various, particularly with dispatch, since they have a lot of technology that has to be coordinated into their new space. It's entirely likely, I'm deferring to the sheriff's judgment on this, but we may be delaying their movement over to the new space to make it work with technology, so they have an opportunity to, if they do get new equipment as part of this grant and a new connection, we could set it up at the same time as they're currently working, so then you could pilot and train and learn and make sure everything's working correctly in your new space. Then they just pick a day and over we go, as opposed to onesie twosie and having to pick up the equipment and move it to its new space. So we'll be working with the Sheriff's Department closely on that over the next few months to try and secure that grant and come up with a plan for when they're moving over. You and Executive Finance approved bringing in Spyglass to look at our phones, and they take a percentage of the savings they can find for us. I'm pretty sure we've completed the process of migrating to the new phone system and eliminating as many cell phones as I can eliminate on my own. There's some department heads, there's a transition going on in Human Services. I think we might have seen more phones get eliminated out of there, but the director's left and the new one coming in, I don't know. I don't want Spyglass to get money that they didn't earn. If we got the savings, I don't think they should get a percentage of that. So, plus, it's not my work. Once I sign the paperwork for Spyglass, the business side of the phone solution is the clerk's office, so they're the ones who are going to get all the work dumped on them.
It ain't me, it's
Because they're going to want copies of bills, contracts, everything we've got going back as far as we can, and I'm not going to be the one retrieving that, so that'll end up falling on Paul's office. 2024 budget. I will tell you the same thing I'm telling department heads. I'm seeing 5 to 35% increases on software this year for maintenance and support. Some are just ridiculous, and I'm feeling stuck. So I'm starting the budget process, and it's looking rather bleak at this point.
Are your maintenance agreements all annual?
For the most part. Some of them, when we acquire a new piece of technology, we'll buy 5 years in advance. So like our data solution that we're putting in, that went into just recently, that we're virtualizing and that we'll be moving into the new space, that's got 5 years of support built into it. And then the same with our switches that we bought for the new Justice Center. Those have got 5 years of support built in, but everything else is annual. As far as fax replacement, the solution I was looking at, that would be an annual, and it comes out to about $130 to $180 per month for the whole operation. So that's looking positive. That's all I got.
Any questions for Tim? Hearing none. Jeremy?
So for maintenance, thankfully, it was just a very uneventful month. We had a couple projects done. We did get that concrete replaced on the front of the building. Scheduled the gravel lot, or the current gravel lot, to get paved at the end of August. So that's still sitting there. We did have an issue over the weekend with a mini split air conditioner, and one of the server rooms went down. I was able to find a motor replacement this morning. It'll actually be here around 12 o'clock, Tim, so you're aware. So we'll have that back up and running. But what that does, there's 2 of them in that room. We try to keep that room at a certain temperature. When one goes down, we get alarms because it's going over 80 degrees in that room, which is not good for Tim's equipment. So other stuff that I've been working on trying to do is when we do this generator cut over here pretty soon, the current LP tank needs to get removed. So I've got that ready as soon as I get a date that we're going to do that generator switch, which I've brought to the attention of the Sheriff's Department, dispatch, and Tim, because when that happens, we're going to lose power to the building for an amount of time, so that the jail is aware, dispatch is aware, so that some changes are going to have to happen for that particular weekend. But other than that, there's nothing catastrophic or expensive happened in the last month. So other stuff under mine, for the parking lot. Speaking with the judge's office, and then looking at the current parking lot. So Ashley is hoping to have 4 reserved spots in the current parking lot as it sits right now for visiting judges and their staff, which had been addressed prior to this already, because they had already put there's already a badge reader on one of the stairwells on the outside of the building that would, so that the judges can park and go right in the building. The only other one that I would look at is, personal preference, I would like to have 2 more reserve spots for the afternoon dispatching shift, just because of the fact that I don't want them to have to park, let's say, over by the baseball field and then leave at 10 o'clock at night. I'd rather them be on camera, stuff like that. That was something I brought up to Brett. It wasn't his. He didn't bring it to me. I brought it to him. I just thought that would make we'll have 39 spots, 3 handicaps. So if we take away 6 of those, we still leave plenty of spots for the public to use. And then we can kind of reevaluate that, let's say after 6 months, if half of that parking lot is sitting empty all the time because it's only for the public, then we can maybe cut that back later. But that's what this is on the agenda for, is I'd like to make sure that there's a policy in place that employees are not to be parking in the new parking lot, or else what's going to happen is by 7:30 in the morning, that whole parking lot is going to be filled up and no public is going to be able to park there.
Jeremy, I thought the judges were going to park in the garage, aren't they?
That's something else. This is for visiting judges, not for our current stuff.
How often do we have that, Brett?
Just for the sake of the speaker here, when the current judge is on vacation or in other counties, it's not uncommon that they swap duties. They help each other out, or for a family court commissioner day, that's technically a judge, or if we have a high caseload where there are 2 judges here, utilizing both courtrooms, it'd be that the current judge, Judge Radke, is the only one that will be parking in the garage. Any other judges that come, whether he's here or not, will have to park outside and come in, so.
But they're asking for 4 spots.
4 spots.
Seems excessive. Since
I don't.
normally we get 1 visiting judge at a time.
And the only comment I have is, like he says, they bring their own court reporter when they come,
Yeah.
and there might be a court commissioner here that same day, so.
And that was the reasoning behind it, yeah. If the visiting judge comes in one car, his court reporter comes in a different car, and then if Mark Franklin is here, and then if there's a court commissioner all at the same time. So that's what they were looking at. Again, looking at the layout of the parking lot, it's not going to hurt anything if we take away 6 of those spots, because there's very few times that I can think of that we're gonna have more than 30 cars here that are public at one particular time, and usually that's just on a jury selection time. But again, this is what I'm looking more of a policy, because as of right now, I make suggestions and they don't get followed most of the time because it's not a policy. You know, if I ask someone not to park in a particular spot that's impeding another business, but then the next day they're parked right back there again, I can only do so much. So this is why I'm bringing that to you, because I need this as a policy for that one.
So you're needing a policy regarding employee parking?
Correct. That the new building's main parking lot, with the exception of, let's say, 6 reserved spots, is going to be for public parking only.
I guess I've been involved in this process about 20 years, and we've gone back and forth. But I think to start with, that's the only thing we can do is to control that and just see how it works out. So I would move to allow for the reserved parking and the balance parking places be available to the public only.
Can I just bring up a point? The next item on the agenda is for charging stations. We may want to include, my assumption is 2 would be about the max we would go with on a charging station.
Yep, and I have a recommendation for that too myself when we get to that one. But yeah, I mean, we can have, I've got a price for a single charging station and I've got a price for a dual charging station.
My point is,
Yeah.
if they're going to be in the new lot, maybe there should be 8 spots, because you don't want somebody without an electric vehicle parking at the charging stations. You'd want to keep those open for whenever somebody with an electric vehicle shows up.
Well, since it hasn't been seconded, I would include that in my motion, that there be provision for recharging stations.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried.
I got a question.
Yes.
Mr. Chair. Jeremy, you're gonna put 2 electric charging. Are you gonna get enough electrical wires in there so that in case we ever needed to expand it to 4, we wouldn't have to dig up the whole parking lot, where you could just add on to that? It'd be a lot less.
And that's kind of what I'm gonna bring up here right now. So at first off, you guys had asked me to try to find grants for this particular project. All the grants that I found plenty, but none of them are offered to small government or local government. If we were a private entity, anything like that, we qualified for certain grants, but nothing for government that I could find. Now, the price as it sits right now that we got from B&B, who's the current electrical contractor out there, was $9,400 for a single charging station and $15,000 for a dual charging station. Then I also did find another company that would be, it's about $10,000 for an 80 amp dual charging station, but that does not include the install price. The one from B&B includes the equipment and the install price. I can't find a demand for this in the town as it sits right now, personally, from places that I've talked to in the city and a few other people around here. I don't think that it's not going to be needed eventually, but kind of what you had stated out is my recommendation would be to see if we just get a price to have all of the conduit run before the concrete is down from the building to the particular spots that B&B laid out, and just have everything ready to go. So if we choose to go this route in 6 months after the fact, 2 years after the fact, we're not having to rip up the concrete to run conduit at that point in time. But I don't think I've ever even seen a Tesla or anything in this town quite yet. If we were Eau Claire, La Crosse, somewhere that had a little bit more of a draw for that, or a bigger area, I could see the need for it. But I can see building it in now, the ability to pull those cables later much easier. That's my recommendation.
Well, and I can agree with you on that, but if you look at the industry and how they're responding to electric vehicles, and, you know, it seems like in the last 5 years, everybody's making an electric vehicle now. So I think we can project that at some point in the future, who knows when in the future, we'll start seeing the need for a charging station. And I agree with you that we need to avoid having to put it in after the fact. Kurt?
Other projects that we've been working on, just kind of want to let you know the discussion that other counties have had, because I've had counties that have installed them, I've had counties that haven't installed them, and the discussion is, who are you giving access to? Some counties have made the decision that it's for the future of your own county vehicles versus the public, because it's a discussion of who's paying for the consumption, and obviously the readers have an opportunity where you can come in and they get charged for them as they deal with it, but it's an offset of that upfront capital cost. So if you're talking 15 grand, 30 grand, whatever the number is, that investment you're putting into, for what reason? Are you doing it for the public, and then how long before that's paid back based on that, and how are you charging for it? I've seen some that have put it in a location rather than it being in the front of house, that maybe like this corner lot, that's why I was asking the question. If it was a corner lot, so it's not like a prime parking location, but yet if somebody pulls their vehicle and they need to charge it, they're charging it over here, and then you would have a bank of them. Otherwise, you're gonna have potentially prime spots that are over here, that unless you have an electric vehicle, it's gonna say electric charging station, and you're gonna consume a stall, right?
Yeah, this is where they proposed to go. That's the closest to the electrical room.
Yeah, right. So
So-
that's why it would be the cheapest,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
But it's also some prime parking that's right there. So there's things to go in. I'm not saying don't do it. It's just stuff to consider, because some counties have done it that we've been a part of, others have not. And that's the dialogue that's been in the room when we've talked about whether it goes in or whether it doesn't go in, so.
And the equipment that I get from B&B, from what I can see on there right now, it's just we put the equipment in, and then you'd be able to plug your car in, and the electric's coming from the county. Added to the electric bill, the county. The one that, and I know there's a different type of equipment that you can get, because the other one that I looked at that had a $10,000 price tag had built-in credit card readers in it, so that the county was supplying the electricity, but we're charging the people that's using it a fee to use that electricity to help offset the cost. Because if I'm spending, if it's just sitting there empty, it's not adding much to the electric bill, because it's just a very low draw. But if we start plugging cars into it all the time, my electric bill, which already is going to more than double, is going to be, the more they use it. I would rather get an income stream back off of that as opposed to just giving it away. But again, that's a decision for you guys.
What is the draw? Now, you said 80 amp, is that on 2 stations or 1?
The one that I have is an 80 amp 2-station. The one that I've got here from B&B Electric is a 60 amp, and that is a single pedestal station.
Now, that's a fast draw. In other words, they could have their charged up in 20 minutes or whatever it takes.
Again, I'm not super versed on these pieces of equipment, and the last that I got from the company outside of B&B was about an hour of charging would give someone about 27 miles on their piece of
jeez.
equipment.
Well, the reason I asked you, I was up at at Osseo and at the Chevy garage, and they have a station there that's sitting, and the salesman pointed out that they don't have adequate power into their plant to plug this sucker in. Now, this must be a faster charge unit. 80 amp, you think would not be an issue with a plant that size up there, but that's kind of a slow charge, you think about it.
Did you have a comment, Kurt?
Yeah, just to what Jeremy has talked about, there are so many different elements out there that you can focus on, because when we did it for the county that's installed it, there was one that you could have a full charge. I think it was under 2.5 to 3 hours. The other one was gonna take a full day for an individual, like an employee would come here and plug in for 8 hours, and then they could get 100 to 150 miles, but it was cheaper, right? So it's a matter of what you invest in. And that's what you wrestle with as an owner, is are you providing this outlet for your employees? Are you providing it for the public? And what's the cost to you? Because to your point, it's not only the upfront cost, but then it is the operational cost, and who's paying for that, right?
Correct.
And if it's not being used, you've just invested in something for how long, and then when do you need an upgrade? Those are the things that you got to wrestle with in regards to where do you put it first, and at what level do you put it in, and what's your policy? Because what's the policy of what are you charging for, and are you adjusting that charge every year depending on what happens to your rates? So there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, I think we gotta discuss this more than making a decision now, because like you say, there's a lot to go into it. Where do you wanna have it? Do you wanna put one inside the garage? Because are the cops gonna need it for a car down the road?
Well,
You know,
I would support Jeremy's position about, let's get the underground.
Conduit in.
Let's get Raceway to
Yes.
where in the future, you're not ripping up a bunch of new stuff, so that if you do want one in the new lot, let's get that in, and you've got some time to research it. Or if you decide you're gonna, I probably got my directions screwed up, on the southeast corner, if you're gonna put it over there, get something ran over to that point so that you have some time to make those decisions.
Right.
So,
You bring up a good point, Adi. Do we need a charging station in the garage?
You know, because are the police, Brett would know, everything is going electric, so down the road, you're gonna possibly need it, I'd say.
I'm not.
I don't blame you, I'm not big on it either.
Well, who knows what technology is coming, who knows what's out there, and, there's speculation that the oil companies are paying to hold back that technology. The switch could turn tomorrow, who knows, but.
Yeah.
Well, and running one to the garage is gonna be easier and simpler than running one to the parking lot, because where the electrical room is located and the garage is located, it's up, over, and back down again. We're not gonna have to rip up a sidewalk and landscaping and everything else. So if we were to put one in the garage later, the install cost would be cheaper than putting it in the parking lot.
To answer your question, though, I hear there are some municipalities going with electric vehicles for their parking police, but for the patrol fleets, I'm not hearing any yet.
I could see it going for admin. You're further up the food chain.
halfway through a high-speed chase and you run out of power.
Yeah.
No need to tell them to stop anymore.
Yeah.
But if the vehicle you're chasing is one of those, they run out.
Yeah, so again, like I said, mine would be just to have B&B run the underground stuff now. I mean, if you're wanting it, right now, it's just for one station with 2 chargers, but it would be still behoove us to run it for 2 chargers down the line if that's what you're looking at. But at least get the underground portion done now, and then take the time to make a decision, or it gives me more time to invest more time to put it in for a budget request later or something if you're wanting to do it that route.
Makes sense.
I'm definitely in favor of that.
Yeah, so am I that.
Do we need a motion on that, or just?
I think we do.
Yeah.
We do. The only question that I would have, do we have to decide where we want that charging station now? Do we want that in the corner like you
I guess
mentioned.
from a timing perspective of what they're gonna be doing out there, it would be nice between now and the next month, that maybe Jeremy gives you a couple options. I think there's one there, but I think it would be worthwhile to explore it on the other side there
Yeah.
and see if you roughed it in for both of them, you'd have flexibility. Might be something to consider.
Yeah, because this is gonna be, like I said, I'd have to go talk to Tad and them today, it would go through B&B, then it would end up coming back as a change order for you guys by next month, I would think, so that before the concrete is
Well, the way
poured.
it sounds, let's not make a motion today, let's give you a month to come back with what our options are. That makes sense?
Sure. Okay,
Sounds good.
so I've got nothing else unless you got something for me.
Do you have an internal recycling policy?
We do and we don't. So we have, before all this construction started, the Tri-R Recycling used to come out and pick everything up, pick up the cardboard and the aluminum cans and stuff like that. And then shortly before this construction project started, they started charging me to pick up everything. So now I don't have Tri-R come and pick everything up. The cans we hold on to, and I either drop them into the church bin across the street, or I drop them into the school bin up the road. But it was costing me $150 a month to have them come pick up the aluminum cans. It was just cheaper to,
Yeah.
so
well,
now this will be something that, when this is said and done, I have a recycling storage room near the loading dock, and then I'll be talking more to, it won't be Dave anymore, but whoever, I can't
The new
remember
owner
who bought
will
the
be.
garbage company, to see if they're gonna start some sort of recycling program, or just have it built into my budget at that point to have them come out and pick up the cardboard. And it wasn't just me, they started charging, Quick Trip, everybody around here to start picking up, which I get, because it was for the fuel for the trucks and everything like that. But it was just sudden that they started doing that. It wasn't we're gonna start this in 6 months. It was, here's a bill for what we're doing now, so.
Was that more than what it was costing to add it to the dump bins?
The cardboard doesn't take up any space in there. We break it all down. My garbage bill, the only reason my garbage bill has gone up is because the cost of the garbage has gone up, but not because of the amount that I'm throwing away. I'm not
Okay.
getting any extra pickups or anything like that because of this. And again, the stuff that would take up the amount of room is the aluminum cans, and we don't put those in the dumpsters, so.
Yeah, well, I did notice a bag that went out as I was coming in that had a lot of cans in it, so.
Well, I'll talk to my guy this morning that if he was picking up some stuff, but
Yeah, so-
I would say, for the most part, even the jail, they bring their cans downstairs and we go put them
Yeah.
in the bins across
Yeah,
the
and there,
road.
maybe some people are not putting the cans where they should be, maybe.
Okay.
That's all, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah, thank you.
Employee screening policy. Are we talking employees coming in on a daily basis, a security issue? Where did we leave that off? I didn't see that in the minutes from last month. I have my own,
We keep postponing it.
Well, yeah, we talk about a little bit, we talk a little bit about it in every meeting, but we never, we said we had it.
well, I have my own opinion on that, and I think everybody should be screened for the purpose of adequate security. I understand the feedback we're going to get, because it happened once before many years ago, and the response from the employees was not what I would call positive.
Well, I agree with you. I think if we're going to have screening, we screen everybody. I think what the employees have to remember is that if they go back and forth, they need to leave as much out of their pocket in their vehicle or in their office, so they don't have to, it won't take as long.
Yeah.
Maybe that's oversimplifying it, but
Well, I think if we do better than the last time job of educating the employees as to what's going to occur and why, we'll be light years ahead of the last time. We're certainly not going to make everybody happy. I don't think we can expect that.
well, as board members now, since we have the keys, we don't go through screening. And it seems appropriate that we also go through
Yep.
screening.
No, my attitude is everybody means everybody.
That's right, yeah. I guess what always concerns me, and maybe the chances are slim to none, but oftentimes there are issues due to disgruntled past employees or employees that may result in some injury or death. If we can avoid that, certainly we want to.
I agree. You know, it's not unusual to hear about incidents nationwide where a disgruntled employee happens to be the individual responsible for the problem.
The main issue would be like the 8 o'clock time frame where
Right.
there would be
A rush.
considerable line to get.
Yeah. I don't know what the makeup or what it's going to look like, the security checkpoint at the new facility. And hopefully, it would be a little more conducive to moving people along.
It's more open than this one is. But my question maybe that could, for the Brett that's here too, if it's everybody, what time? Because Sam gets here at 7, but security doesn't start until 8. So is it every employee all day or just business hours? Because, I mean, I get that people coming in and out during business hours if the employee leaves at, for lunch and then comes back, but you're not gonna, because like, again, Sam doesn't start till 8, but she gets here at 7:15. I start at anywhere between 6 and 7. Dispatchers are different, so that's where it becomes a little bit more of a, so the public, 100%, but when you're doing everybody, that becomes more of a problem for his staffing at the front door or how you're gonna write that policy.
And what do you want to pay for?
I think business hours makes most sense to me because that's when something can happen. That early morning, I question, but
Yep.
The one thing about it is if an employee, not that it helps you predict, but if an employee comes in early, you're gonna know the employee is here early because they have to badge in. And it documents who owns the badge and what time they got here. And you're gonna have video of them coming in. So it's not like they're not screened, but it's not like they're totally coming in willy-nilly. And where the general public, that they don't have that option. They have to come in during normal business hours.
Correct, the social workers are here at all hours. They're here, 10 o'clock at night on a Tuesday, and they also come in on the weekends as needed. So that's, but like Brett said, I can pull a record of anybody that has a badge that's come in and out of this building, and if there was an issue on, Saturday, we wanted to see who was here, or if something comes up, people have been able to reach out to me before to turn somebody's badge off after hours too, so.
Brett, I got a question. Brett, all your officers are gonna come and park in the garage when a shift changes, or they'll utilize the garage?
So, my administrative staff will all come in through the normal entrance.
Yeah, but there's no
The-
checking them then.
the-
They don't have to go through anything.
What's that?
They don't go through any screening from that garage, right? They just go right to their offices?
Right, but they're not gonna come in through the garage. Carol, Tammy, I guess they'll come in through the front door. It's likely that our detective staff, investigators will come in through the front door. Not everybody's gonna park in the garage. The garage is really only for the patrol staff who are on duty, because there's limited parking in there. But they will be able, if they're sworn, they will be able to come in through a walk-in door through the garage into there. But it really doesn't matter because they can carry a firearm in the building anyway. It doesn't matter if they're screened or not. So anybody who can come in through the garage into the sheriff's office is already lawfully carrying a firearm in the building without being screened. Anybody else will have to come through the front door. Yeah.
What time does the deputy start at the front door there?
8 o'clock, I believe. 15 minutes early, 7:45. He gets here to get everything up and running then for the 8 o'clock opening.
Now, there are times when there are two deputies there. Is that possible, most of the times to have two available at, as the courthouse opens? Or is that,
Well-
do they stagger those?
I just said something to Wayne here about staggering that to accommodate those that want to come in early. First of all, it's union contract driven, so we'd have to negotiate, likely would have to negotiate, but that second person isn't always available. That person is really that second bailiff, because the judge wanted a bailiff in all hearings, so we had to have that second person here. And that person is also kind of in charge of security of the whole campus. You know, we'd like to have them out and about, just checking with the departments every now and then. So they're not always going to be available for that staggering start time every day, as it stands right now.
Because I know there was some comment made about the rush that may occur 15 minutes before 8 for employees to come through. And if there's only one deputy to screen, that would complicate things.
I think, so do they all bypass security right now? All the employees, they all come in side doors, or?
I think anybody with keys does.
Yeah,
They just badge in and walk through.
yeah.
Yeah, they
You know, it's
just
one of
walk
the-
through and set the beeper
Because they
off.
can also come in quick trip side if they wanted to
Yeah.
as well, so.
It's one of those things like Jeremy referred to earlier with the parking lot. It's you know, what, we don't really know what it's gonna look like, but to me, I believe that things will move through there pretty quickly. Once a person comes in, they walk through, and if they, especially if they leave as much as they can behind, I think it'll be a quick process, but I don't know until we see it start happening, so. And it's possible for that first hour, we might be able to have two there on a lot of days, but there's only one screening station though, so, you know, we can only do one at a time anyway, even if we do have two there.
A vast majority of the employees arrive before 8. Like
You gotta get here to get a decent parking spot.
That's great.
So you'd have to have screening start earlier
7:30 anyway.
at the latest.
Well,
I
we
think
just
we'll be
have-
adjusting it as we go,
Yeah, we
for
just
sure.
have to check it out to see what we can afford, eh? Well, you know, security is a good thing, but it costs money, so how secure do you want to be?
I will be I'll gum up the works. I got a bag I have to carry every day, so I will slow everybody down and they'll be like, oh, I got behind Roberts. It's gonna suck.
Yep, well, at least we
But
have
it is
somebody
what
we
it
can
is.
blame.
Yeah. You have to come in early, Tim.
I'm not in that percentage.
Maybe you can come up with a vetting process for those who have high luggage days. That's only Tim.
Well, the airlines have that. You can bypass, you can get in the fast lane.
I'm kind of half serious about it when I said it. There might be certain ways to vet certain individuals.
If you agree to having your room searched every once a week. you
Yep.
can-
Maybe we need to have a dog present to sniff out the bag.
Don't start.
Well, and then, and I have another question that kind of goes along with this, as long as we're on the same, doing security there, so we still, I don't know if this is gonna be written it down anywhere, but one point of entrance for this building, is that still what you're looking at the front door only, and then they can go out on the new door for Quick Trip, but they can't come back in, because with budget coming up too, I need a budget to buy alarms for all of the existing doors for next year. The current front door, the sheriff's hallway door, stuff like that. I need to put alarms on those if we're not going to be using those in the future. So that kind of goes along with this screening process. If you're only allowing one entrance, fine, but, and I mean, this is a whole big topic, but I know it's been talked about for a long time. I just trying to narrow it down.
I would definitely say yes.
Yeah, and
I mean,
I'm only aware of two committees, this one, property and law enforcement, that have voiced the same concerns. I don't know about the rest of the board and the other committees. You know, I'm sure the employees will have something to say about that, but I'm with Doc, at one entrance. That's pretty basic to your security plan. Both of the times that we had the federal marshals come in and do a security survey, that was number one entrance. And they weren't in the least bit vague on that.
And one exit.
They, you have to be able to exit more than just the one spot.
In case of emergencies.
Yeah, but that's why I just need to put alarms
Just emergencies.
on the doors. But like I said, there's the
Daily-
other door.
Daily exits are going out just at one door.
Yeah, there's the other door that's going to be in the viewpoint of security at the new building that goes towards Quick Trip. And the last that I had heard on that was people would still be able to exit that way because security can see them leaving.
Yeah.
There's just going to be no badge reader on the outside of that for people to come back in
Right.
that way. And if that's still the case, that's perfectly fine too. It was just making sure that everyone's on the same page, and I don't know if this is a written policy somewhere yet that needs to get, because even Brett's gonna have to start doing budget here pretty soon too for staffing for the door and all that good stuff, and, because now we're getting down to the wire when some of this stuff needs to get figured out.
to me, it's too simple to me, and maybe everybody will question that, but do we want security or not? It just seems like if it's a little
One
bit of
entrance.
this and a little bit of that, it's not security. It's
Right.
got to be the one entrance.
Well, there was some discussion in the past about a bypass door in the vicinity of security. Now, you're talking about vetting. There's no reason why you can, with the badges, you can indicate who can pass and who can't with a badge, right?
As I can give access to certain doors. So
Well,
the way that
listen-
like this building is set up, if I give anyone a badge, they're always going to be able to open the Quick Trip door and the front door right now. This is main access.
Okay.
And then there's specialty access, which is the sheriff's department or dispatch or IT or human services, health. Those are, I have to give specific control or access to each people, because like my staff and Tim's staff can open any door. But yours is only going to open the front door. You're not going to get into health or
Right,
anything
right.
like that. So,
But I think if there's a bypass door, the mention of vetting people, their badge would allow them through that door. If they've been vetted, so to speak, or who can go through that bypass door at any time. They, in theory, could enter the courthouse too.
But I think what you just said goes against what Doc just said. If we're gonna have security, you have one entrance. You don't give somebody permission to go through the bypass door.
No, what I'm saying is the bypass,
Right next to the scanner, you're saying, there'd be
Yes,
so they don't,
yes.
so they don't have to slow the process, they just go
yes.
through right by the scanner.
That's what I'm saying. But that way you can either allow all employees to use that bypass door or a half a dozen employees.
Just to muddy the waters even more, Wayne had a great idea. You could do a random search policy for all employees. Don't search them every day, but have a random where you never know when your number is going to be called. But another idea.
No. I think we're starting to tread on the Constitution a little bit, unless you sign off when you start working here that I give the county permission to ignore the Constitution as long as I'm employed here. I would not sit real cool with random search as I come into the building. Walk me through the security checkpoint.
And like I said, I don't think it's going to be that big a process, but.
No, I don't think search would be a bad.
No, it's an employee random,
That's
it's their.
better.
Yeah, screen. Yeah. They go,
That's different.
today's your day to go through the screening process is what I meant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's different.
If I might address the chair?
Certainly.
In talking to employees about this topic, one of the things that has been mentioned frequently is badged exit. So take the badge readers from the outside, flip them to the inside, and allow them to, so when they're done with their day and register of deeds, they walk around the corner, go out that door, and shoot out to the parking lot. Because their badge allows them to exit that way. That would be the accommodation I've heard from a lot of employees that they'd appreciate.
And I get that too, and then we've had that here in the past, and the issue I have with that is then people put a rock in the door.
Yeah. But that.
Which kind of, they, oh, we won't do that, and then you walk by again and there's a rock in the door again.
Yeah. Yeah, we've all read about Watergate, we know how this works. So, can't you fire somebody for that?
I can't.
I would start with discipline first, but yeah.
It's just a matter
Called progressive discipline.
Well, you're violating the security protocol, it's kind of a big deal.
It depends, and it's always a spectrum on whether it rises to that level, so it just depends on the circumstances.
The fact of the matter is,
Because there's a camera on that door.
we can have a security policy in place that we like and covers all the bases. And the minute you throw the employees into the mix, there's gonna be variations of that, and there's no way we're gonna avoid that. We just have to respond as the employees learn how to get around the policy you have set in place. I think that's a fact, regardless of what the policy is.
A determined individual will find a way around security, because we are following the Constitution. You can't do a pat down and search everything on every employee as they come in, and so there's always that. But I believe the fundamental goal of those that brought this up from the court system was they want to prevent the hot moment person.
Doc had asked me what I've been seeing, and the trend that we have seen with the counties that we're working with is they're heading towards one secured entrance or one screened entrance. And with things that have transpired over the last few years, it seems as though those individuals that were opposed to that at one point are more receptive to it, so that you have as safe of an environment as possible, and they're willing to go through the issues that are associated with the difficulties. Now, I understand the timing of when you're getting screened and all that sort of thing, which would be policy, but to answer your question, it's been smaller counties that have been dealing with it. Once said, hey, we're in the Northwoods, never going to worry about it. They're doing it now. So.
How are they handling all of this, these other exceptions?
Well, there are some counties that do allow a one entrance with badged, right? So employees come in one entrance. There's others that had that and they completely did away with it. Then they have to come in 7:45. That's when everybody comes in. The after hours is unique in regards to how somebody going to be able to get in there with after hours of social work and all that sort of elements. Those are things that, like Jeremy said, they're screened or they're videoed. You can know who's been in there, and that's how they're treating it. So some additional cameras have been added at those entrances so that you can monitor them. Each campus is different in how it's laid out. So, but to accommodate somebody going to get lunch at in the shortest in and out is not a priority. Hasn't been a priority on the ones that I've seen, but I understand that's what they're used to. So,
You know, the discussion so far this morning brings up in my mind, we've been postponing decisions on this, and I don't personally have the time to invest today to come to a decision one way or another on this. Do we, I can't believe I'm going to say this, need more input from other committees on this? We keep going round and round, and what if, and oh, what about that? And we do need to come up with some viable end to this.
I guess just something that I would throw out there from the design perspective, and Jeremy can correct me if I'm wrong here, the way that we have the building designed right now, when the addition is complete, it's designed to have one secure entrance at the new entrance. The jail entrance will not be screened for people coming in and visiting the jail, but they're only going into the depth of that lobby. and then they're going to leave, right? So if you talk about the extent of where the public, it's gonna be that little area that's in front of the vestibule where somebody could come in and they're unscreened there, or into the jail lobby, but they're not going any deeper than just that jail lobby, and then they're leaving. The element that you would have to add is the alarms on those doors that are on this existing building to know if they're being compromised or if they're being opened. So he would have an alarm that says, hey, somebody walked out the back door that aren't currently alarmed. So that's what you're talking about. And the policy at that point, it's electronic, that you could adjust it as you needed to if you were going to grant access to somebody with a door. So you have the flexibility the way it's designed. It's just a matter of when you're implementing the policy. It'd be nice to do it when day one you're opening up that front door. So you've got a few months to get there. Just doesn't.
Which is why I'm looking at purchasing an alarm system or whatever, it's in that
Correct.
first part of the month, so that whether it's just a straight up detects fire alarm on the door, or it's a, one that I can adjust easier.
Right.
Some of them can just be straight fire doors.
What are the plans for the current entrance? Is that entrance going to remain?
No. Once you occupy over here, this will be the only entrance. So,
Is it going to still be there, is my
yes,
point?
there'll be a door there
It'll
for
be there.
It'll be an exit.
egress only.
Emergency exit.
Exit. Yeah, the dilemma we got is that we're trying to get the security for the whole building.
Yep.
And still trying to make it convenient for the employees and expedite the employees coming in the morning.
Right.
And it's a damn tough thing to balance,
Yep.
And so it's gonna be a tough decision one way or the other, because there is no middle ground there, I don't think.
Well, I think we should, everything, it's going to be a trial, no matter what we do, it's going to be a trial. But why don't we say that employees coming between 7:30, coming as early as 7:30, be screened? Everybody who comes through at that time be screened. If a social worker happens to they have to come in at 6 o'clock in the morning, they're going to have to badge in the front door. We don't have any choice, it sounds like. Or Tim comes in at 5 o'clock. He'll badge himself in.
I agree, because all the stuff that I've heard before, and I agree, because like I've heard from law enforcement before, you're gonna stop the person at the door that's angry, but you're not gonna be able to stop the person that's pre-thought out what they wanna do and come in on a Saturday night to hide something in the building. You're never gonna be able to stop that kind of stuff. But like the social worker coming in before, they gotta do their job, it is what it is. But during the business hours, those are the people that you're wanting to see.
So I think if we set a policy, it can be general to some degree, and then there'll have to be some accommodation made to implement it, obviously. But I think if we would say everybody who comes through the door during business hours from 7:30 until closing has to be badged in. Has to be go through the screening process. That would be the policy.
So you're making the business hours 7:30 instead of 8? Or
I'm saying that in order to accommodate the 8 o'clock start, it would have to start the screening would have to start at
so
7:30.
give people time? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense.
And all employees exit out of that one exit?
Well,
Except for the one across from Quick Trip. They'd be able to exit that way too.
I mean, I don't know, see that, that's what,
Well-
I want clarity on it.
right. I wasn't trying to answer every issue.
It's gonna be tough,
I don't
Doug, I
think
know
it's
what you're
possible.
saying.
It's impossible. But we could include that, yes, that exit going towards Quick Trip could be,
Because it's a new one, it's at the
okay,
entrance.
and they
It's a
could use,
straight shot,
and they
so-
could use their badge to get back in.
No.
No.
Just to get out that
It's,
door.
that's,
Oh, I'm
the
sorry, I'm sorry,
deputies-
right,
the screening
right,
deputies
right,
are there, and they
right,
can see people leave
right,
and make sure they're not
right,
popping that door.
Right, right,
Every other door, then I would put an alarm on.
okay.
Is
Yeah.
dispatch going to have the ability to monitor all the cameras that you have in place?
The current cameras?
All the cameras once you have a complete,
As far as I understand it, dispatch and even the deputies at the front door should have the ability to view all of the cameras,
Okay.
existing and new.
It's unlikely they're gonna all be on a panel at the same time in front of them.
Understood.
They'll be able to toggle through and then they'll all be recorded.
yeah.
Okay. So, okay, I'm going to make a motion. You
But
can-
before you do that, keep in mind that the hours 7:30 to the end of business is a contractual issue for the person manning the security station, because that would include some overtime on a regular basis, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, I'll make a motion then. Okay, the motion is that everybody, including employees, who come to the courthouse must pass through the one entrance and go through the screening process. And that the door would be open for that passage as early as, not as early, let me rephrase that, would be open by 7:30. And that issue would be somewhat dependent on the contract with the law enforcement officers. The second item would be that the exit towards the Quick Trip can be used as an exit only, and that employees could be badged that would permit the opening of that door without sounding an alarm. And they would then have to re-enter the front door or main door. Does anybody want to add anything to that?
Two other things you probably should, just as a matter of formality, is sworn sheriff's office staff can still come in through the garage without being screened. Because if the policy doesn't say that, then technically they can't do that. But
Okay.
sworn staff can come in through the sheriff's
Yeah.
garage, and jail staff has their own entrance.
Do you want it, would you add that? Are you adding that right now? Okay. Is there anything else then? Brett? Okay. Does anybody have anything else?
Just when you want it effective.
Yeah, you had the start time,
Right.
7:30. Do you want an end time?
What time do they leave?
4:30.
Or 4:30.
4:30. That would be the end time then. And when, startup time?
Yeah, I assume you're talking about when the new facility is.
Yeah, this would be effective the date the new facility is open for business, I guess.
I got a question. How much room is going to be between the front doors? The front doors are always going to be open.
Like a 6-foot entryway will always be open.
Yeah, but how much room is in there?
That is a very
Between-
large, that's a very
It is?
large room.
Oh, okay. I was just thinking when employees all come in and
Oh, yes.
it's cold, or, some guys are
It's-
gonna get there,
it's-
as long
it's-
as they can get in that door and get warm, rather than stand outside and
Oh,
wait
yeah.
till 7:30.
I guess we should have a second before we go on with our further discussion.
Well, we're looking for additional items, but I would say that's the motion. And it would be nice if there were a second.
Yeah, I'm going to second that as the basic thinking there.
Okay, just to play devil's advocate.
Hit her.
Brett just said, well, the jailers can come in through their own entrance and they're not screened, but they can be disgruntled employees too.
But they
Okay.
But they cannot get into even the sheriff's office unless the jail controller lets them into the sheriff's office. They're stuck in
Okay,
their
yeah.
area.
Yeah. I'm just saying, some of these ideas are thrown around.
Good point.
I appreciate the input, I do.
Do the dispatchers have a separate entrance?
No.
Okay.
I mean, you gotta start with something. We can always amend it as we
So
go. It's gonna, like you said before,
sworn
Dick, it's a learning
Jail
process.
employees come in.
What's that?
Sworn employees and jailers come in through
Yes.
their own entrance, okay.
It ain't perfect, guys.
No, but it's a start.
Yeah, that's what we have to do. And I think we've been pushing it down the road here, and I have been involved in pushing it too, so.
Yeah, you can only kick that can so far.
So that will be a 9-hour shift, obviously.
7 will be, yes, yep, yep.
Get, by staggering a little bit, we'll work with the.
You could do that.
We'll sit down and look at it and see
Oh,
if there's a
okay.
way we can make it work.
Okay.
Any further discussion on the motion and the second on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried.
Deal. We got something. It was.
Smart.
Yeah,
We might hear some.
yeah.
But we can always, you can always amend it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Jeremy brought up a quick question. Is this something that's gonna be put into a policy that all employees are gonna be notified of, or how is that gonna be forward?
Yes.
Start typing it up, Sam.
No.
No.
My motion wasn't well planned out, so maybe, Sam, would you let him see that? You have a chance, you have it today.
So can I ask a question too? Just because? So
Yes.
then the doors will be unlocked at 7:30, or you still have to badge in at 7:30?
Say that again.
Because you said that the doors will be open by 7:30. Well, are the doors gonna be unlocked?
The door should still be closed because we're not open to the public
Open
until
till
8.
8.
So the badge, your badge would still open the main front door.
I
but
see-
you'll have
I
to
see
go
what you're
in
saying.
From
Okay.
that security.
Good point.
Yes.
Good point.
Yes.
Because everybody would still have a badge, obviously.
Correct.
Number 10 on the agenda is discussion/action on meeting room policy and security, and I think kind of hooks up directly with what we just got done discussing, and the security part of the meeting room policy, I think, hinges on what the county wants to pay for as far as having that spot staffed. The way we do it now, of course, I can say it seems to work pretty good. I'm not the guy that has to come in and man the security checkpoint. I know on the way in today, Mark asked me how long I thought the meeting tonight would go, the ad hoc committee meeting, 6. And sure, I said, I'm the chair, it'll be done by 7.
Well, he asked me the same when Human Services meets.
Yep,
And a lot of that too goes back to me because then he lets me know.
yep.
If your meeting starts at 6, well, then I open the doors at 5:45, and then I relock them at, say, 6:30.
Yeah.
That way you have, whoever was going to come to the public meeting had ample time to get here. And then he's still at the front door anyway, but a lot of that hinges on some of that.
I think that end of it is fine. We know that if that guy's got 8.5 hours in already that day, his time spent at the security checkpoint is time and a half. But didn't we kick around on shifting gears a little bit? What, if anything, we were going to charge entities to use meeting rooms in the county facility?
$50.
50. Across the board.
I believe as long as they aren't an existing entity, part of the county itself,
Yeah.
they would not have to, but otherwise, yes.
Is it being used now by many?
Okay, so we got that
I
covered.
don't think.
Not since COVID, really. Before
No.
COVID, we had a lot of stuff that would come in here after hours, but then during COVID and since post-COVID, we haven't had a lot.
Okay.
It's all county stuff for the most part.
Are we, Jeremy, did you say that, like, if the meeting starts, like, Dick's meeting starts at 6, you shut the doors at 6:30? So nobody can come in, correct?
Depending on what the meeting is. The county board meetings, I leave it on, like if your county board meeting starts at 7, and then I'll ask Paul, he'll figure by the agenda you're till about 9. I'll do it till, let's say, 8:45. Because other than that, the deputy is still there. And if someone comes to the door, he can see them and let them in at that point. But if your meeting starts at 7 and you're over at 8, that door's still unlocked for another 45 minutes because the deputies don't have control over how to lock and unlock the doors. I do, but then they're gonna have to try to get a hold of me at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night sometimes too, and sometimes I don't have my laptop with me everywhere. So we do our best guess. So, but the deputy is, again, always there until that meeting's done in case someone were to come from the public to get into the building, because we can't close it to the public. But I don't have to have that door unlocked all the time either, as long as there's someone there to let them in.
Just that open meetings law, I just didn't know if you got something locked and somebody finally gets there at the end, I want to say something and he can't get in the building, are we in trouble with that? That's the only thing.
Yeah, as far as I understand it, I haven't been given a kickback on any of that, because there's never been a time that someone couldn't get into the building during
Committee
a
meetings or
meeting.
whatever. Yeah.
Correct. And there's only a handful of after-hours meetings now anyway. The Human Services sometimes runs after 4:30 because they start around 4. County Board, this ad hoc.
Health.
And then health. And then there's just some random stuff here and there, but for the most part, a lot of them have started in the mornings or in the mid-afternoons, so.
So there is an existing policy and an existing charge on that meeting room use included in that policy. I personally think until we see a need for some change, that I think we're good. Anybody want to bring something up that would argue with that statement? Jeremy?
I think if we have the price at a level which is going to cause people to think twice before they want to utilize the space. If our meeting rooms are all in a separate wing, or a separate space with one entryway into those meetings, it would be much easier to make it available to the public. But the way these rooms are set up, they are not real convenient for public use. I'm speaking of non-governmental use when I say that.
Well, do you feel that $50 is enough to make people, it's enough to make me think if I was...
Well, I would say maybe leave it at that until we find that we have too many people interested in $50.
Yeah, I agree. Any further discussion on that item? Hearing none. Take it away, Rick.
All right, it's on the appraisal. So we've been notified by our insurance company. Let's grab the notes here. So our insurer, WCMIC, they insure all of our property, and we've been notified by them that they are doing mandatory property appraisals for all of their clients. They're doing it in a 3-phase project. We are in phase 1, which means it'll be done this year. So in the not-too-distant future, I haven't heard anything, I don't know if you've heard anything, Jeremy, as to when they're coming.
No dates yet.
They're supposed to give us a 2-week notice that they're going to be coming out, and they will be appraising all of our property, and then they will be using that to look at our insurance coverage to see whether or not our insurance coverage is adequate, whether it's over or under type of a situation.
If you had to guess, what would you guess? I think we're underinsured.
Right, exactly. But any structure that's worth $75,000 or more will be appraised, and they will go around the county. They'll be asking us for a bunch of information prior to, so they'll know where they need to go and what they need to do. But I wanted to get this on your radar just to give you a heads up. I'm also going to go to personal bargaining with it because they deal with the insurance premium aspect side of things. I mean, Exec Finance does as well, because this may have an impact on that going forward. So, but I just want to give you a heads up that that's something that's coming up here very soon.
Well, the healthcare center is included in that, I imagine, isn't it?
And it wasn't just a healthcare, yeah, I think they use WCA, MIC. If they do, they will be included in that as well. Yep.
And then they're going to do it in the next 2 weeks?
Nope, but they'll give us a 2-week advance notice that they're coming, and then, but it'll be sometime this year. Unfortunately, I don't know when it's going to fall with budgeting purposes as well,
So
too.
it would be next 2 weeks, because that building ain't done, we wouldn't get.
Oh, right, yes. They say that they're going to be able to estimate what it's going to be with a completed
Will they?
structure, is what they tell us.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I asked,
Yeah.
because we were in the middle, so.
Correct. So anyhow, just wanted to give you a heads up that that's coming down the road, and those numbers will be coming in soon.
And you probably will be hired.
Potentially.
What do you think?
I'm just taking a guess, but they're gonna be higher.
All right.
Oh, my gosh, I hate to see how much higher.
Oof.
Yeah, I don't know when the last time there was any appraisals done for the county. I'm not sure of that. So anyhow, just wanted to give you a heads up that that's coming down the road.
And I think you said it, but it went over my head, that we don't have any word as to when they're going to start.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. My understanding is that may have, because there was, I think, 10 counties that were this year, so I'm guessing that they've already started. So, and just a heads up, so the insurance company did an RFP for companies to do the appraisals, and so that's how, because there was a question as to whether or not there's some kind of a conflict of interest. And so that was their way to get around that apparent conflict, was to bid it out, and this is the company that they are moving forward with, so.
All righty then.
So I'll let you know once the appraisals are done.
Sounds good, thanks, Rick.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Items for the next meeting agenda. Well, Samuel's group, IT and maintenance. Anybody else? Anything else?
Security's taken care of, no
If you-
security.
Yeah, if we can get it, maybe that motion, that long, lengthy motion,
gonna say-
get a copy of that, just so we can
Sure.
look and see how the verbiage in there, to see if we need a, like you say, adjust a little bit,
We'll
yeah.
have the minutes to approve, so it'll be
Yeah.
in the minutes.
Well, I guess that's right.
But it'd be
Yes.
nice just to
I'd
have
say,
it.
I mean, do you want a policy started to put together? I can't promise I'd have the final
You
draft,
might-
but a draft of
You
one?
might have to adjust it, yeah.
Is that
That would be wonderful.
just a working document to move forward with and kind of
Yeah.
tweak it from there? So,
Parking lot charging station back on
The what, the who?
there. Parking lot charging station thing.
That should come in through Samuel's as a change order, because I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
have it conflict prices.
Now, I heard concrete, it's gonna be concreted.
Well, it's gonna be where the sidewalks and stuff are, so that's why I'm trying to get it done now before the sidewalks are poured. Correct. Blacktop. But it's gonna have to run through landscaping underneath sidewalks and stuff like that, so if we get it poured now.
Where was this other lot he was referring to?
Melby Park lot, I think on the other side of Hobson.
Well, which one are you referring to, though? Like where the charging stations would go?
Yeah, Kurt said something about moving it away from a prime spot right out
Oh,
here.
into the other, because like right now, where it was, the parking lot, the north side of the parking lot, which will be facing the building, that's where they have them located. Because that's the cheapest run, because the main
Yeah.
electrical room is like
Shortest
20
run.
feet away from there.
Yeah.
Kurt was saying maybe we move them to the south end of the parking lot, so you're not eating up the spots that are at the front of the building. It's not gonna cost as much as putting a charging station in, but it's gonna be more expensive to run conduit 100 yards as opposed to 10 yards, you know, so.
Yeah.
So you're gonna come in with those numbers then?
Yeah, well, I'll go over with Samuels today on what we're looking at doing, and then they will put it into B&B, which will have to come back to you guys to approve a change order for that
Both of
project.
those- Both of those,
Yes.
yeah, good, good, thank you.
Yes.
Guess what?
Yes, we don't need to put it on the agenda.
Okay, already deleted it.
Way ahead of us.
Yeah. All right, next meeting date and time, 8:30, and it's August 14th, I believe,
Yes,
second Tuesday.
14th.
Yep.
And with that, I will adjourn the meeting at 9:53. Are you going to be available for a little bit?
I will.
Your office?
Okay.